Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into a bit of a clash, really, around the current administration's tariffs.
That's right. We're looking at some claims made by the White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, and comparing them to, well, a recent YouTube analysis that takes a very different view.
Exactly. We know you want to get a handle on these kinds of complex topics without getting bogged down. So our aim is to just unpack this specific tariff situation.
And the core question really is this. The press secretary suggests reports of widespread disapproval of these tariffs are maybe inaccurate. Is that actually the case?
Let's start with her statement then. What exactly did Karoline Leavitt say?
Okay, so during a press briefing, she stated, and this is a direct quote, "Everybody in Washington, whether they want to admit it or not, knows that this president is right when it comes to tariffs and when it comes to trade."
Wow. Everybody. That's quite a sweeping claim.
It is. And the YouTube host we looked at definitely picked up on that.
Yeah, they called it delusional, didn't they? Suggesting it's pretty out of touch with reality.
Pretty much. Painting a picture of a real disconnect between the administration's perspective and what others might be seeing or feeling.
So what's the pushback then? What does the video offer as evidence against that everybody knows idea?
Well, the main thing they bring up is polling data. They mentioned polling data that came out this week.
Okay, recent polling. And what did it supposedly show?
It apparently showed that the public, well, basically hates the tariffs. That's the word used in the analysis.
Hates them. Strong word. Is that across the board?
That's the claim. The video says majorities of Republicans, independents, and Democrats are unhappy. And it stresses this is, quote, legitimate dislike, not just political posturing.
Interesting. Of course, polling is just a snapshot, Methodologies differ.
Absolutely. That's a crucial point. But the video uses this reported consistency across different groups to suggest pretty significant public concern.
Right. So Leavitt says Washington secretly agrees, but this analysis points to polling showing the public broadly disagrees. What about inside Washington itself, though? Does the analysis mention political opposition?
It does, and this is maybe where it gets even more pointed. It highlights dissent coming from within the president's own party, the Republicans.
Oh, really? Like who?
Well, it names names. It says 7 Republicans have signed on to the legislation in the Senate aimed against the tariffs, and Congressman Don Bacon apparently introduced something similar in the House.
7 senators.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not insignificant. Any specific quotes?
Yes, Senator Ted Cruz is quoted, and it's pretty blunt language. He apparently said, "Tariffs are not good. This could lead to a recession, which is going to be a, quote, bloodbath for Republicans."
A bloodbath? Wow. Okay, so that definitely signals some serious internal concern about the economic fallout, doesn't it?
It certainly seems to. That kind of language suggests worries about how these policies might impact voters or specific industries that are important to their base.
So summing that part up, we've got public polling data suggesting disapproval, and now prominent Republicans voicing opposition and, well, pretty dire warnings. That picture looks very different from the "everybody knows the president is right" claim.
Completely different. And the YouTube analysis offers an interpretation for why Leavitt might say what she did.
What's their take on the motivation?
The host suggests it could be, a strategic move, a need to really back the president, maybe dismiss negative stories as just fake news.
Right, trying to control the narrative. Of course, we're just reporting on the analysis and interpretation here, not saying that's definitively the reason.
Exactly. We can't know the actual motivation, but the video clearly presents her comments as being at odds with, well, their version of reality based on this polling and political pushback.
Okay, let's recap then. The core of this deep dive was examining that claim from the White House press secretary about widespread, maybe unspoken, support for the tariffs.
And contrasting that sharply with the evidence presented in the YouTube analysis specifically, polling data showing broad public opposition.
Right, across party lines.
And also significant dissent voiced by members of the Republican Party itself, including those warnings about potential economic damage.
It's a stark contrast. So the final thought maybe for our listeners is, well, given these really different narratives floating around about these tariffs.
Yeah, what factors could possibly lead to such different reads on public and political opinion when it comes to economic policy like this?
Good question. And maybe what other information or perspectives might someone want to seek out to really form their own informed view on this whole complex issue? Something to think about.